Hello, listeners. Thank you for joining me on 21st Century Native Leaders. I hope you enjoy this podcast episode with my guest today. Follow me on Facebook, 21st Century Native Leaders, or Navajo Podcaster. I'm also on Instagram as Navajo Podcaster and on Twitter, Navajo Podcaster. Thank you. I hope you enjoy. Hello, listeners. Thank you for joining me on 21st Century Native Leaders. My name is Peter Desert III, and I'm here with actor Forrest Goodluck. Thanks for being on the show, Forrest.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell me about yourself, your tribal affiliation, if you have clans, where you come from.
Yeah, I'm my father's side. I'm Navajo from Shiprock area, and on my mother's side, I'm Mandan Hidatsa from North Dakota and Tsimshian, Alaska.
Oh, that's nice. So did you grow up in Shiprock?
I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico,
Okay.
and yeah, I was born and raised here. I spent a year when I was like 1 in Alaska, but I've mostly been kind of living in Albuquerque for most of my life, other than like just the craziness of, packing up a suitcase and being in Canada for half a year or just for different shoots and stuff like that. So it's kind of funny, like Canada has kind of become my second home after the amount of shooting I've done there. But yeah.
That's cool. So what are the highlights of your career so far?
I don't know. I think it's just kind of been an incredible process. Just from the start, I think, as a young person, I always was somebody who would go out and try to be a part of local theater productions in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And from there, I would just like try to basically find reasons not to go to school. So I'd like do auditions for film, during morning school, so I could skip it, or like kind of do improv classes and just anything that kind of kept me busy, really. But it was mostly fun for me. I don't think it was ever something I really wanted to do, but I think, luckily something sparked, I guess, and being able to be a part of like huge film productions and small film productions and just be around artists, and I think be around people who, for me, like filmmakers are kind of the philosophers of our modern era, and like just being able to be around that energy and tell stories and be around something that feels like it's making sense of so much of, I guess, what happens is like really cool.
Well, that's cool. So what are a few of the names of the movies you've been in?
Yeah, so I've been in a film called The Revenant. That was my first feature I did. A film called The Miseducation of Cameron Post was another film that I was a part of. A film called Indian Horse. Yeah, there's been, like, y'all can probably look it up on IMDb. Like, it's probably a more comprehensive list than I can kind of recall right now.
So how did you get into acting?
I guess it was just something like I kind of felt was fun, I think, more than I think it was more like I'm getting into acting. It was more just fun to be in school plays or doing kind of different, like, improv classes or just stuff around town that was either part of school or, like, not part of school. And it was just fun. I think it wasn't ever really like I'm trying to get into it. It was just fun to do, and luckily kind of turned out.
So how old were you when you first auditioned and got a part?
I was probably about 12, maybe. I think. So the first role I actually auditioned for was for a Chris Eyre film called Man Called Buffalo, and I'm sure for anybody in Indian country like Chris Eyre, you probably know, like, he directed Smoke Signals and other really amazing films, and I had I had the great opportunity to audition for one of his more recent films, and I actually got the part pretty much, but unfortunately the film funding or just whatever kind of happens behind the scenes didn't work out, so the film didn't end up being made, but it actually got me in contact with a woman named Renee Haynes, who's a really prominent casting director, and I met her, and she just, somehow, like some miracle, I met her, and she believed in my career and really helped me out with finding me other parts because she believed in what I was doing and liked what I had to say, which is really nice. So it worked out, I guess.
Nice, I like that. So talk with me about the process for auditioning.
The process for auditioning is, I guess it's like any job interview, except you're the product. So you kind of go into a room, I guess, and read the script and the lines and yeah.
Nice. So are you sent the lines or the script beforehand?
Well, it depends. Sometimes you're sent sometimes you're sent the size before. Sometimes you're sent the script. It just depends on. Some bigger projects will send you just the sides and be very secretive about it. You have to sign waivers to basically tell that you're not going to share it with anybody because they're really high profile projects. But sometimes they'll just send you the whole script, or sometimes you don't even have to audition and they'll just offer you a part. But yeah, sometimes I guess you go in for the reading if you're in LA or you're wherever they're casting, but since I'm in Albuquerque, a lot of what I do is sending in self-tapes, so I'll tape myself reading the size they want me to read and then send that in, usually through Vimeo or something, but yeah.
Nice. And are you part of the SAG? Is that what it's called?
SAG is a union for actors.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I'm a member.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I had interviewed another actor. His name is Ryan Begay.
Yeah, I know Ryan. He's awesome.
Yeah, he was talking with me about the SAG and explaining it to me. That's awesome. So let me get a little bit more specific here. Talk with me about Indian Horse, just a summary of it, brief summary.
Yeah, Indian Horse is a film about, it's a residential school survivor. So the synopsis is, I guess, a young Ojibwe boy gets captured and taken to a residential school where he's treated horribly in Canada. And he gets out by playing hockey, so his out is the sport of hockey, and he, plays professional and kind of degrades from there. But it's like this really crazy feature film that was this kind of whole life journey of this man, this boy who, grows up to be. I played the second version of him, so kind of the teenage version of the character, who grows up to be I think 40 or 50 is when the film kind of leaves off, but it's just this kind of moonlight progression of three actors playing the same person, and it was a really interesting experience. I'd never done that before, and it was really cool. I mean, you kind of have to go tons of different places because you're portraying a whole life of a person, which honestly as an actor is kind of nice just because you are informed about the entirety of somebody's life, so you in a way have to do less work to understand where they're coming from versus other characters where you do that anyway, but you're never really showing that on screen. But yeah, it was a cool process.
It's amazing. I actually pre-screened the movie last week, and it's a powerful movie. And it touched my heart several times. I had tears in my eyes because of how powerful some of the scenes were. So, You indicated you were in Canada. Did you move to Canada to film?
I moved to a town called, where did we go first? Sudbury, Ontario. There's a lot of like tax credits for film there, so I actually just like ended up working there for a bit, which is like this coal mining town. It's a really low key town, but it's really interesting, really crazy different place than like Albuquerque or New Mexico. But then we moved up to Peterborough, Ontario. So all this is like Ontario. And it's this other small town. It's a little bit more stuff there, but there's a bunch of hockey rinks there, so we shot a lot of the hockey scenes in Peterborough. And I think we finished up in Sudbury again. But it was a really interesting film. It was very like small towns, like different places, I think, than I was used to seeing. And but it was a really great process. I think being in Canada, being around a bunch of Anishinaabe people was awesome, because you kind of, once you kind of got in it, like you just felt so a part of that community, that I think playing somebody who even kind of, I mean, like, what's nice is that the parallel of Saul entering a group of native hockey players and not feeling completely at home at first was kind of cool, and kind of mirrored the fact that, like, whoa, like, I'm this American, Indian, Navajo, whatever, kind of hanging out with all these Canadian Indians, and, like, there's that first little, like, what are you guys all about? And, like, that kind of was a nice little, I don't know, parallel, I guess, but, God, it's so cool, like, once you hang out with, like, Canadians for a week or so, like, you kind of get their accent down, and you feel their mannerisms out, and there's kind of a different sort of, I want to say it's different, but there's definitely a very specific qualities about their friendship and community that you couldn't understand unless you were in that with those actors, portraying, like, the kind of connection that all of us felt as actors, but in the film as, like, kind of turning into a makeshift family. And it's really cool. Yeah, it's really nice.
That's sweet. So, did you already know how to ice skate before you shot the film?
Yeah, so I didn't. I was in LA when I actually auditioned for the film. I was just there for I mean, like, I'm so, like, everywhere all the time, but, like, I ended up in LA for some reason, and I auditioned on a Skype interview with the director, Steve Campanelli, as well as some of the producers. And they brought in a reader. He had nothing, like, didn't know anything about the project. And we read it. It was a very good reading. And so I was super excited about, like, the whole project. And it's like, I mean, it's like this, like, fucking, like, I'm looking at you through a screen. And then he asked me, like, the director on Skype, he's saying, do you know how to hockey, or do you know how to ice skate? Do you know how to play hockey? And I was like, yeah, I used to play Little League hockey. And I was like, the worst lie. But he believed it. He thought I could ice skate. And so immediately I went to the rink over here, which is called Outpost. I got a rental pair of skates and just immediately started to learn how to hockey stop. And I tried to do that for like 2 weeks. And a few days in, I ordered my own pair of skates, but they took a week to get in. So I was on these horrible, and I didn't know they were horrible, but like horrible rental skates that were just dull and awful. And finally, when I got my new skates that actually had an edge, like, I just immediately, like just came to a beautiful stop, and I was like, oh shit, I got this down. And I think that's all I wanted, because I knew in the script there were moments where I had to, like, pull into the camera and stop and, like, have this snow flurry kind of thing. So I knew the specific things I needed to do. Like, I could get a double. In my head, I could get a double, but, like, I needed to get to a point where I was confident. So I did that for a couple weeks, and then right at the end of, like, I only practiced for a month. I made friends with some of the hockey players who, like, 40-year-old hockey players who played pickup games in Albuquerque. And I got on the ice with them. I borrowed some of my friends' hockey gear and just played pickup games with these, like, 40-year-old Albuquerque people. and I was the worst kid on the ice, and they hated that I was on there. But there's this huge Russian guy who would just like down like 2 or 3 beers before playing a game, and this like crazy, amazing, what's her name? I forget her name, but she's this. She was like the one woman playing hockey with all these guys, and she was just like more badass than all of them playing goalie. And both of them like took me under their wing and basically just taught me how to play hockey, and were like basically really trying to like hype me up and like get me on the ice as much as possible and get me to learn how to play hockey because they knew I was getting ready for the film. And I scored a goal once, and I think it was my proudest moment because I played with them for like a week. So yeah, I didn't know how to play hockey, but I definitely got to a point I think where I was confident, and it was amazing. I got there and I could do everything that the stunt guy could do, that we had to do. Like, of course, not as smooth. Like it wouldn't look like I had done it for years, but like I got to that point, which was nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's amazing you had to go through that to go and practice, and you took a month to get acquainted with the ice and you know the technical aspects of skating. That's awesome. So do you typically do that for every role that you portray?
Well, I think it just depends. For that one, it was nice because the actual art of hockey informed the character, which was cool. There's other characters, I think. I mean, the other side of Saul was that he was an abused person, and that was definitely months of research trying to understand what that was like. Another film, for Miseducation of Cameron Post, I played a Winkday two-spirit male named Adam Red Eagle, who's Lakota, and that was like a lot of research into understanding what the whole, you know, two-spirit identity meant for somebody, and feeling what it feels like to be. The cool thing about like the word Winkday is that it literally means in Lakota, man killed by woman, and sort of the idea behind that is like in your body, in your spirit, you feel like a woman is literally killing your male spirit, and it's kind of this constant static. It's not like you just inhabited by a woman's spirit. It's like this constant static between these two identities, and that exists within you. And that was like kind of the compass, I think, that pointed a lot of who the character was, feeling-wise. So everything's so different. I mean, of course, there's not like a technical aspect to that, but there's definitely like an emotional places you have to kind of feel out. For other films like Revenant, which is you're like straight up in the world, and there wasn't too much else to have to do when you're already in that environment, and like, you know, you're freezing cold and you're actually trying to like keep warm and survive. So there's like, it's mostly just being in the moment with people and less about all this crap you kind of prepared. But yeah, I think everything's so different. Everything's so, yeah, so specific to each character that, like, what do you need? And, yeah, exactly. I think it's just, like, kind of tilling the field and, like, seeing, oh, like, maybe I need more of this or more of that, or, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely sounds very intricate acting. You know, people think you just get on the screen and then, you know, you act, but it sounds like there's a lot of prep behind shooting and your lines and stuff like that. So, you know, in your personal life, have you been exposed to some of the racism that is highlighted in the movie Indian Horse?
Yeah, I think as any Native person and any person of color, or you've experienced a level of racism, I think, in any capacity, and I don't think it's as blatant as, you know, racism is not as blatant as like getting beat up in a bar, which of course is a product of deep-seated racism, but like there's so many different forms of ways that I think the way you look can impact the sort of life that you live. And I think you yourself, like, as a native in the spotlight, like, you're going to have to deal with things that other people don't have to deal with. And a lot of that, for me, I think, as a native performer, what's become more evident has been the sort of the speaker for your race phenomenon is kind of a funny thing. I think once you're kind of put up in a position of having a voice, you can often be put up as somebody as like the definitive speaker for Native people, and I think that's a really big shame, because a lot of other sort of groups of people are never asked to do that, but as Native people, I think it's a big issue. And for me, like, seeing Native people, like, everybody has their own perspective. Over half of all Indians are off-res, and like just the fact of like the crazy diversity of different Indian people's livelihood, and like there's just so many of us with so many different perspectives, so many different backgrounds, and just a deep nuance of our ideas, and like young Indians versus like the older generations, and like how all of our opinions and voices and mentalities could be conflicting, but they're all equally as valid. And I think once people start seeing our stories come to the forefront and seeing us as people who are so radically different from person to person, that I think a lot of that racism is going to start being alleviated, and you're going to start to see that, like, we as Indian people, from the most outside perspective, are more than caricatures, and from the inside perspective of Native people talking to Native people, like, we'll start to see our differences and start to celebrate that versus, I think, discourage, I think discourage just like these differences that we all have. And I think once we start to embrace that, there's definitely going to be a lot of amazing things that are going to happen. But yeah, I think absolutely discrimination still exists and will exist probably for all of time. But I think what's amazing is that art and film, music and performance and writing and storytelling is alleviating that, which is like pretty amazing.
Yeah, that is, and I completely agree with you. And there's, it's a way to express that and to highlight it as well. And I think that's what the movie Indian Horse did a really good job of, was depicting that historical trauma and that trauma that exists with our people. Whether you're First Nations or if you're native to America, that's it highlighted what we as Native people go through on a daily basis. And we have to live in the modern world, and we also have to live with our traditional values, which leads into my next question. How important is your culture?
Oh, my culture is, I think, paramount to every choice I make. I think my family has always taught me just my values of community, of family, of the importance of knowing where you come from and holding certain things a lot closer than I think I've seen other people, especially in the crazy kind of oscillation that is the film industry. I hold my family really close, and I think, this connection to where I come from really, really close. And I think what's beautiful is that having, my mom and my dad and my relatives, like, teach me that, kind of keeping 2 feet on the ground. I couldn't have done this. I couldn't make films. I couldn't be, like, traveling as much as I do, or just being kind of pushed back and forth as much as I think acting kind of forces your spirit to be, like, just pushed and pulled in different ways. And without that groundedness, like, I definitely couldn't have done it. And I hold it very close. And it's been kind of a crazy journey, and I'm just so glad that that's been there.
Mm-hmm. It's powerful. Mm-hmm. So how do you want to be remembered?
I don't know. That's it's a big question. I don't know. Well, I guess I hope I don't have to be remembered too soon. I hope I don't have to think about that until I'm a lot older. But I don't know. Hope it's well. Hope people are. My main thing is just to allow young Indian people to know that their stories are as valid, and in my opinion, more valid than most of the stories being told today, and that just as young Indian people, there's so much strength in what we have to say, and the fact that Standing Rock happened, and the fact that just the amount of, I think, new media you're seeing with us behind the helm of it, it's just incredible what we have to say. And there's something so special about our entire culture informing our ideas and our mentalities. And there's something even the older generation Indian people, as amazing as that perspective is, there's something so special about the younger generation's view of the world now. And I think we're so damn smart, and there's so many things that we just want to say, and there's a strength in that. And I would hope that, as a young person, or whatever that means, that has been fortunate enough to be a part of, a few films, and have made some of my own short films, and aspire to be behind the camera. I would hope that, as stupid as it sounds to be as they see me, they can do it too, blah blah blah. But seriously, I think I've seen so many young native filmmakers that I've done labs with at Sundance, or even smaller community labs, or just collaborations in Santa Fe, or different museums hosting filmmaking workshops, and amazing Tracy Rector, one of my friends in Seattle, running youth-led filmmaking camps for Native people. I just think fostering that, and I would hope that there's just more fostering of young Native people being able to tell their stories, and that's what I would hope would happen. And I think is a goal of mine later in life, is just to create programs that allow the learning of film language for young people. Because I think once we control our own stories, we'll control the way we move in society itself. And I think that's kind of my goal. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a good future to look forward to. So how can people follow you on social media? What platforms do you frequent?
Okay, so I'm on Instagram, which is just Forrest Goodluck, at Forrest Goodluck. I'm not on Twitter, contrary to somebody stealing my name and making a fake Twitter of me. So I'm not on Twitter. Facebook, I think I have one just to sign up for stuff, but I don't use it. So don't follow me on Facebook because I don't use it. But just Instagram, yeah.
Okay, nice. Do you want to do a plug for the movie Indian Horse?
Yeah. Let me. I think it's playing in. Do you know the exact show times?
I think it's December 7th, I believe.
December 7th. Oh, yes. Okay, so...
In Phoenix?
It's going to be showing in December 7th in Phoenix. That's right. And everybody should go see it. But I think, actually, Indian Horse... I know we're showing in... around then in Phoenix, but, I think there's going to be more screenings later this month. I think just in general, we're trying to push for a larger, just theater presence, I think, other than festivals. But there is, if there's any educators out there who I guess want to use the film as an educational tool to kind of show what the residential school system was if you go to indianhorse.ca or indianhorsefilm.ca, they have the DVD available to use and like rent out for screenings as an educational tool, along with a full comprehensive study plan to use alongside with the film. So it's kind of using it as an educational tool, which is awesome. It's also available on iTunes and I think Amazon. It's available for purchase. I think we were like number 3 or 4 on the Canadian iTunes for a bit, which was awesome. So I guess anybody can see it now. But yeah, it's definitely meant to be seen in a theater. So if you have a chance to see it in a theater, like, it's definitely worth it.
It's definitely an amazing movie. Like I said earlier, it's powerful. Just the content and what it talks about, and the journey that Saul Indian Horse takes through life, and those are some issues that are deeply rooted in Indian people. And if you do get a chance, it's a good movie. I mean, it's probably one of the best movies I've seen. That talks about some of the historical events that happened. So, absolutely. I appreciate you taking time, out of your schedule to interview with me and share your story and share some of your experiences. And there are definitely people out there that will follow in your footsteps and get into acting. And they're kids. It's a medium that people can do with with technology these days. They're making movies, and next thing you know, they're being casted into movies as well. So it's pretty fascinating how technology has opened the door for acting and art. So we're all set for us. If you want to send me a picture, I can put it on the back of the podcast, and then I can share it with you whenever it's available.
Yeah, for sure. I think you need a picture of myself.
Yeah, a picture of yourself.
Okay, for sure. Is it bad? There's some online of me that might be easier. I'm not sure. Or could you use that with copyright?
Well, if someone else took it, then I'd have to put photo credit on it for whoever took the picture.
Oh, okay. Just better ones with me online, probably. I don't know if I have any current photos of myself. But, yeah.
Do you want me to look online, and then I'll just see who took the photo?
Yeah, that's probably the best way.
Okay. Maybe I'll ask Kim if she can send me a photo with the photo credit on it.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. All right, man. Hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate you sharing your story. It's pretty powerful. And
yeah, no, thanks for taking the time and, like all the thoughtful questions and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you're a role model out there. Kids know your name. I'm actually a high school principal, and
oh, really?
I was telling some of my students that I was going to interview, and they're like, "What? Are you serious? You from Revenant?"
Oh.
So, all right, man. Hey, take care. I heard you're at Stanford. Is that correct?
I'm actually taking another. I am a Stanford student. I'm taking another leave of absence this year. I'm actually shooting a film in like a couple days up near the Mojave. So there's some work happening. But yeah, I'm still enrolled at Stanford.
That's cool. Well, good luck with that, and let me know. I'll follow you on Instagram and look at what movies you have coming out.
Sweet.
All right, man. Hey, take care. Yeah. Have a good one, bud. Yeah.
Bye.
All right, bye. Hello, listeners. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode with my guest today. Follow me on Instagram, Navajo Podcaster, also on Facebook, 21st Century Native Leader, or Navajo Podcaster. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed. Have a good day.